their jobs and their way of earning. Some of them went completely underground. And for people who work in the entertainment industry and hoteliers, it was even more difficult.
And a very good afternoon to you, our viewers, wherever you're watching us from, and welcome to yet another episode on our CPK TV. And we have been having a round of interviews with members in the Central Committee and other people in the society who ascribe to communism and socialism. And you can check out our interviews with our chairperson, Mwandawiram Ganga, our vice chairperson, Bukangesa Omole, and we had an interview with the ambassador of Kenya to Cuba, and also Dr. Fatma Hafagi from Egypt. And today we have yet another member from the Communist Party of Kenya, who is a member of the Central Committee. And without much further ado, I will let him introduce himself. Welcome to our studios.
Thank you very much, Comrade Sefu.
Yeah.
My name is Tonny Mboyo, a member of the CPK Party, also a member of the Central Committee. I play the role as Secretary of Arts and Culture at the CPK Central Committee. And thank you for having me.
Thank you very much, Tony. And that is, you've been very elaborate in your explanation. And I would dare say that, you know, even media would fall under arts and culture. And to just begin, and you know, we always ask this every time in our interviews, what does your role as the Secretary of Arts and Culture entail in the Central Committee?
Well, as you may have said earlier in other interviews, the Central Committee is one of the highest organs of the party, and so that is where much of the strategies is done for the party and decisions. And as Secretary for Arts and Culture, I am basically in charge of ensuring that we employ the youth of the arts in doing the work of Communist Party of Kenya with the masses, and also employing the use of cultural ways of expressing ourselves in terms of spreading the message and educating the masses on the role of CPK in the liberation of the masses.
Wow,
Okay.
thank you. That is extremely elaborate. And I do understand that, you know, as a person yourself, you are an artist. Maybe you can tell us a bit about your art and, you know, what it involves, even as you have this role in the Central Committee.
Okay, I like to describe myself as an art activist or an artivist. And that's actually how I came to be a member of CPK, because of the work I do. I'm an artist. I use theater, music, visual art, and performing art as a way of expressing myself and educating the masses, and also using it for protest against injustices. But more particularly, I lean more towards puppetry, which is a very, very rare art in Kenya. But it's also a part of a visual art. It's a visual metaphor that we use for art. But also, through puppetry, I'm able to engage in other art forms, like music, like theater, like performing, like visual art, because it combines all these ones. And that's how I came to be part of the party, because part of my work involves a lot of coming up or composing chants, songs that can be used in the struggle, in working together with other comrades to redirect our energy using chants and music to be able to express ourselves. And it was during some of these activist activities in the streets and in protests that I came to meet with comrades of CPK. Then it was SDP. And then we came to immediately connect with CPK. When I met these comrades, And when I heard what they're talking about, and when they heard what I was singing about at the National Theatre and in the streets, they immediately say that you, Tony, you belong to SDP, and now we call it, now we are CPK. Yeah. And that's how I came to be part of the Arts and Culture Secretary in CPK. And it's been a long journey. We've worked a lot within CPK to try and consolidate our arts and try and use it to communicate on CPK.
Thank you very much, Tony. And that is extremely, elaborate when you talk about your journey in the arts. And I understand that you have been in the arts for a long period of time, which is, I would say, over 20 years. And there's a saying that we have in Swahili that says, msanii ama usanii ni kioo cha jamii, which loosely translates into art is a mirror of the society. And in a lot of the political parties that we have in Kenya, we have not seen this role of, let's say, somebody to be in charge of arts and culture. Or it's not something that is, the traditional role. Usually we have the Secretary General, we have the chairperson, other roles in parties, but I think this is very unique to CPK that we have someone who is specifically in charge of arts and culture. So what do you think is the role of art and culture, especially when it comes to politics? And especially now when we're talking about the Communist Party of Kenya, or when you're talking about socialism, which thrives on fighting for the rights of the proletariat, for the working class, for the exploited and the oppressed. What exactly is the role of arts and culture? And of course, you can dissect this deeper in the political field.
Yeah, one unique thing about the Communist Party of Kenya is that they at least understand and appreciate the role of art as a mirror to society. And that is the most unique part of it. Because with art, when you use art, when you use music, when you use theater, something, it goes into the heart, where a real change can manifest itself. And many political parties don't know the power of the arts. They would like to use artists as parrots. Yes. They would like to use artists as sloganeers only. And it has been done before. In previous regimes have used art in a bad way, in dictatorial ways. We have had the previous regime of Moi, yes, who used a lot of music, forcing our children to sing songs like parrots, to sing praises of a dictatorial regime. We've had people like Mobutu Sese Seko of Zaire, who used Franco's music to praise himself and to heap praises of himself. Yes. So art has been used by dictators to propagate their colonial regimes. But in CPK, we are using art to educate the masses. And that is why, specifically, we have a secretary in charge of arts and culture. Yes. Because that is really very unique. You cannot have real change if you do not recognize the role of culture. You cannot have a real change or real conscientization of the masses without appreciating the role of the art, because art is who we are. And like you just put it, art is a mirror to society. When people look at an art piece that is reflective of their society, they see themselves in it. If you look at a theater performance, and it's talking about your society, and you laugh, you're laughing at yourself, and you cry because you're feeling what the art piece is talking about. And that is where the role of the arts comes in at CPK, because our music is conscious music, it's historic music, it's revolutionary music. It doesn't just come from nowhere. It is not art for art's sake. It is art for the sake of change, for the sake of education, for the sake of consciousness. And so that's why, specifically at CPK, we really appreciate the role of arts in bringing the real change that we seek.
Thank you. And I think as you were talking about, the role of arts, you happened to mention the Moi regime and the dictatorship. And just on a light note, did you ever get to sing any of the songs, or were you ever coerced into singing any of those songs during that regime?
Okay, to be honest, at our age, most of us who grew up at that time of the regime, who were artists, we had art in ourselves. when we were in school, we wanted to sing, but you find yourself in a mass choir. And you never knew, as we were innocent children, you never knew that we were being coerced into heaping praises at a dictator. But then later on, when I discovered myself, and I had actually sung songs for Kanu.
Wow.
Yeah, unfortunately. But when I discovered myself...
You didn't know.
I didn't know. When I discovered myself, I have never left the path of change. Since I started doing art for change, I have never done anything that was just for art's sake, for entertainment only. I have always done work that is geared towards bringing some form of change,
consciousness,
creating some form of revolution, even if it's in the health sector, because we've done plays about HIV and AIDS and its impact on society and why the healthcare system is failing. So ever since I discovered myself, now I looked at the environment around me, having grown up in the slums, and then I realized that there was something wrong about the regime. I have never left that path of change, and all the art we have created. And thanks to CPK now, this is the helm of my artwork, is to inspire young people to come up with new songs. Thanks to CPK, I'm still at that path of change.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you speak about your story and how you were always able to use art in some form of educative or revolutionary way, we see that the Communist Party of Kenya has, again, surpassed another milestone that we've not seen with any other political party, in that it has come up with an album of songs, about 14 or 15 songs, and these songs have themes that surround Pan-Africanism, that surround feminism, that surround, of course, the political ideology of socialism, and also the struggle of Kenyans from 1963 until now. So tell us about, these themes that, are seen in these songs of Pan-Africanism, of feminism, of political ideology, and also of the struggle of Kenyans from 1963 to now. Tell us about the themes that are coming out in the album.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning the first album of the songs of the struggle.
Yeah. And
it has not been done, like you said before, by any other political party, not even civil society organizations. This is the first time that an organization, a political organization, is coming up and saying, let's do music for the struggle, let's document it. For many, many years, we've been singing songs in the streets. For many years, the Mama was singing in the bushes. But these songs were passed on from generation to generation through word of mouth. But we say now, let's come together, a central committee of CPK, let's come together and select particular themes and songs that we can be able to document and to archive and to disperse out there to the people, for them to understand what we stand for as CPK, and what we stand for in terms of feminism, what we stand for in terms of Pan-Africanism, the struggle of the workers and the students, and all these things were carefully selected by the Central Committee with the help of the Secretary General and the Vice Chairman, the Chairperson, and we actually, some of them actually we came up with them like spontaneously. When we were singing in the street, then we was like, let's put this in this song. Then all of a sudden, it becomes a full song. So they are all inspired by revolutions.
So the songs came from the revolution?
Yes, they are all coming from the revolution.
Yeah. And
different revolutions in different parts of the world, including Kenya, including South Africa, and many other revolutions.
Yes.
And so we said, let's look at the various themes, like you rightly put it. We have Pan-Africanism in there. We have the struggle for the Kenyan masses. We have the struggle for the Kenyan workers. We have the previous struggles of the communist
movement around the world,
movements and communist experiments around the world, and we were able to put them together, like how you would cook some food that is from different cultures and different backgrounds. Yes. And so this first album was an international outlook, and an African taste. Yes. So that's what we went to do with the first album. The first song, for example, Wimbo wa Mapambano, has been sung for many years by the Kenyan activists. And it developed on its own somehow. someone like generically just came up by itself, and people kept singing it all along, and it became a symbol of the struggle for democracy and liberation in Kenya for many years. But nobody had thought of documenting it and putting it out there for the rest of the Kenyans to be able to understand what this song is about. So that's why CPK took the step to document it and to make sure that Kenyans out there are able to listen to it. The tune is a South African national anthem, which is actually the Pan-Africanist almost anthem. Like we have it, there's the same anthem in Tanzania, in Zambia, in Zimbabwe, and many other countries. And so we think that it's a good song. Ever since we did this song and put it on our documentation, it has really grown. You go to many places, people never knew the song, and they all have to start the meeting with the song if it's a revolutionary meeting. Yeah. The other day I went to watch a play. Yeah. Just out of nowhere, I had in the play one of our songs that's documented in the Songs of Our Struggles. Somebody's put that was able to put it into context and put it in the play, and I was like, wait a minute. Actually, our songs are having an impact. These are young people who are doing this play, so you can imagine how far it has gone by the time it gets to be performed inside the play.
So that means that the role of educating the masses, is actually taking shape in the manner in which, the Communist Party of Kenya had envisioned. And when we look at history, one of the things that, we've been faulted, especially as Africans, is the fact that we have a very rich culture that has not been documented over the years. And because of that weakness of, maybe where our culture had to be passed on by word of mouth or by other means that was not documentation, then we ended up losing a lot, of our culture and what we stood up for. But the Communist Party of Kenya has taken this step, which you have mentioned has been done by no other political party, no other civil society organization, to document these songs of the struggle and, to be able to educate the masses as much as entertain them. So when we look at this music, of course, we see that the lyrics, some of them had to be tweaked, or some of them had to be done for renditions, like the song for Mekatilili and Modoni. It's a rendition by Amak Kabane from South Africa. So what was the process really like of, lyricizing this music, writing the lyrics, documenting it, even before we get to, the production, or even changing the renditions of some of this music to fit into the Kenyan society?
One of the most important documents that we used when coming up with the music for the Songs of the Struggle and renditioning them was our, what we call Msimamo Wetu, what CPK stands for. When you look at a song like the one you've just mentioned, Mekatilili and Modoni and Jiru, is that in history, the role of the women in the struggle has been relegated to a minor role, which is not true, because our history is not told by the real people. Our history is told by the oppressors. And so we thought that, because we believe that the struggle for feminism, the struggle for the women in Kenya has been forgotten in Kenya, we thought that it is important to show that we actually had women generals in the Mau. We actually had struggles by women against the British colonialists, even way before the Mau was started. So it is very, very important to document that particular history through music.
Yes.
And that song is about Slovo and Tambo.
Yes.
But now we confined it to the women generals and the women heroines in this country who have been forgotten, and people do not talk about them.
Yes.
And so that's why the renditioning process had to use our Msimamo Wetu, what we believe as CPK, what we think is lacking in terms of our history, in terms of understanding where the revolution is coming from, and also what we think the masses out there are yearning for, the truth. And many people are afraid to talk about the truth, but with music, you're able to talk about anything, and because it's nice, and it gets into your heart, you can reflect on it. It's catchy, you can reflect on it, and you can later know that what you are singing, what you are dancing to. And because that song is a very good, in terms of dancing, it has a very good beat, and the musicians there have done a good job on it. The female vocalists have done a good job on it, and the instrumentalists. Yeah. It's good to dance to it, but by the time you finish dancing, you ask yourself, do I really know about Muthoni Nyanjiru? Do I really know about Mekatleli Wamenza? Have I forgotten the struggles of the women generals in the Mau Mau and all that? So that's why it's important in the renditioning to remember the history and to put it into context. And
you've spoken about feminism, which is a contentious issue in today's society, and of course you've been able to bring it up when we talk about the rendition of this song that has spoken about Muthoni Nyanjiru, it has spoken about Mekatleli, it has spoken about Muthoni Kirima. These are people who traditionally are not hailed or even seen. And of course we have the Mashujaa Day that is coming up, and rarely do we see the celebration of women in our history, and the Communist Party of Kenya has taken this step to celebrate these women, to fight for women. And even in our circles, in the few study circles in the Communist Party of Kenya, we see, a couple of them being named after women, like, Field Marshal Muthoni and several others that are coming up. But also you, as a member of the Communist Party of Kenya, you've been widely involved in feminism and, feminist activities. For example, in the Support Women Artists now, I think you're one of the very few men, together with Ooko, or who's also known as Swaki, who support the women in this journey. Just tell us a bit about, the support of women and their role in the struggle, even in the Communist Party of Kenya.
Yeah, it's because our society has been really patriarchal and has relegated women to the background, which is actually not true. It is actually true that women artists have a huge disadvantage when it comes to art, the art industry in general. And like I would say here in Kenya, having been a practicing artist for a long time, I know that for me to be, as an artist, for me to make it as an artist, it's very difficult. Because art also is not seen as serious, as a serious work. And a few elite artists can make it. Yeah. But artists are all over, and artists can have it very difficult to make it in the industry. But for a woman, it's even more difficult because of the patriarchal barriers that they will find along the way. And even if you look at the top 5 artists in Kenya, you would say musical artists in Kenya, if somebody told you to count, you would count maybe Sauti Sol, you would say Sauti Sol, I don't know, and then you would hear somebody mentioning a woman, because it's really very difficult for a woman to make it as an artist. And so I joined the Support Women Artist movement because there is need for women themselves, first of all, to support each other, and for also the men to also recognize the role of women artists and to be able to support them, to be able to be seen out there, and to be able to move and to remove the barriers, the particular barriers, the sexism that is out there for female artists, the financial barriers that are put there for female artists, even the notion that we are going to have a woman artist today in the audience. People are like, so I joined the Support Women Artist movement to try and help to break these barriers in society, these patriarchal barriers that have been put there by society and by the previous regimes, colonial regimes, dictatorial regimes that have been in this country, and the exploitative regimes. So that's why, for me, it's really very important for women artists to be recognized and to be uplifted and to be celebrated.
Thank you very much, Tony. In the BBI, which has since been thrown out by the High Court, we have seen that there was a special commission which was being formed to come up with a Kenyan culture, or an elusive Kenyan culture that would bring, all the people of Kenya together. And of course, this is something that we have seen over the years, that we've been trying to get, one Kenyan culture that would bring people together. Using the Marxist lenses, the Marxism, Leninism, and of of course, dialectical and historical materialism, where we have a proletarian outlook, and we are fighting against we are fighting for a classless society. Would you say that this is something that we can achieve in Kenya just by getting a culture that espouses everyone?
You know, you cannot get a culture from somewhere. Cultures evolve, and culture is also not static. It is dynamic, and so there's the issue of putting culture in a document in BBI, to me, is neither here nor there, because it's not possible to put a culture on people. What we need to do is to promote the culture of the people. And what we have in this country, we have not had a serious conversation on how to promote our cultures, because we cannot have one culture as Kenyans. There's no culture that is called Kenyan culture. Yeah, we just need to celebrate our cultures, promote our cultures in terms of make sure that we recognize each other's strengths and diversity, and then it will emerge by itself. Otherwise, you cannot say that BBI, which was a sham, proposes that we have a national ethos, national culture. We are lacking national ethos. What you're lacking is not national ethos. What you're lacking is the right system that celebrates our culture, that is able to promote people's culture, and that is socialism. And that is where the BBI was trying to lie to Kenyans, that they are able to impart a culture on people where the system already is wrong. They were not proposing a change of system of governance. They were not proposing a change. They were just proposing. It's like dumping something on people that are already dynamic and are already themselves.
Thank you very much on that. And when we were talking about the album earlier that the Communist Party of Kenya came up with, that had a myriad of themes that cut, across, including Pan-Africanism, including the political ideology of socialism, etc. We saw that there was a big celebration this year. That was May 25th, which is the day that we celebrate African Liberation Day. And, on that day, there was a launch, of this album that went on, and there was a live band, and it was a very big celebration. And of course, with that, there was a document that the Communist Party of Kenya came up with, which is this document that we have, of course, that has the lyrics of all the songs, and it highlights each and every one of the song. You can get this from the Communist Party of Kenya at only 100 shillings, and the pay bill number will be running across your screen, where you'd be able to purchase this amongst many other documents from the Communist Party of Kenya. So, Kasmo, tell us a bit about the launch of the album during the African Liberation Day, seeing as you've been very instrumental in this process.
Wow, I would say that the launch was one of the best, or one of the best moments for me as Secretary of Arts and Culture at the Communist Party of Kenya, because it was the culmination of something that we have been trying to do for even up to, let's say, about 2 years. When the idea for us to do an album came through the Secretary General, we thought it was like a dream. We were just saying that one day we should put this song somewhere and we should be able to sing it. We should sing these songs. And we started the idea of collecting the songs, trying them out. Sometimes we just break into song out of nowhere. We're just somewhere in the streets. We are somewhere sitting at a restaurant. We just start singing, and then people would wonder what are these people singing about. And we realized that it was actually something that is achievable, and we started now looking at the different themes that we are able to look to address in this particular first album. And so we were able to put together as musicians, and we did the first phase, which was about 8 songs. It was a very challenging process, but we were able at least to put together about 8 songs. Then we did the second phase of the first album, which we did about 4 more songs to finish the album. Then now we had the African Liberation Day coming up, and it was also an opportunity, because you're working with a deadline for us to use African Liberation Day to launch the album. It was really, really heavy for the artists in terms of making sure that the studio recordings are done in time, and then going back to the rehearsals and putting instruments in there. And it was a very, very intensive time. And for me, being there at the launch of the album and seeing the energy that was around the room there, and feeling the music behind me, and it was something like a dream come true. And if you have watched some of the songs that we did, which I was there, you would realize that I was almost like going into a frenzy. Because that was the culmination of a very, very big thing for the Communist Party of Kenya, and for me as Secretary of Arts and Culture, and for the entire country and Africa, because it was really
and the world
magic, and the world at large. The Cuban ambassador was there, and you could see them dancing to our songs, and we were like, this is happening, this has happened. We could not believe it has happened. And it was very unfortunate that our Secretary General was not able to be there in person, but I know he was following up on the live streams. But that moment of the launch, and the music and the energy on that day, and the solidarity from comrades all over the country and outside from the country was magical, was something that has not happened to me or to the Communist Party in a long time. And that moment will be remembered for a very, very long time to come. And hopefully, the young people who are there, who are very much inspired. I got a call the other day from a guy who was coming from, I think, Meru or somewhere, Meru or Maua, yeah, somewhere there. And he remembered the album launch, and he was telling me how they would like to come and see something else happen here. And it was really very touching to me. So I hope that that particular day was a good inspiration for the young generation who are there to be able to come up. And I've seen that happening at CPK. We've had our young cadres even coming up with their own songs. And that is something we would like to see more and more. And we would like to invite them for us to do this once again, now with their own music that they're coming up with. And they have lots of chants they have come up with, like to Fortemao, those kind of chants. They have also internalized these ones that we did in album 1, and people out there want to hear this music. If you look at Bella Ciao, the Kiswahili one, our Bella Ciao, right now it is 1.6K views. That's not a joke to get 1.6K views on a song that is barely known in Kenya. And now you can say that Kenyans are appreciating this particular kind of music. Yeah. So I think it's magical, it's revolutionary, it was a revolutionary moment for me, and it will be instrumental in inspiring future generations.
And now that you've spoken of Bella Ciao and the views, I'd like to invite you, our viewers, to like our channel, Communist Party of Kenya on YouTube, and you can view the music on there and give your comments, like, share, subscribe. And every time we keep talking about, the album project and the lyrics and the songs, you've mentioned the SG several times, meaning that he's been very instrumental, in the coming up of this album and the lyrics, and you worked closely together. I understand he was an executive producer in the album. Tell us about that. Are you working closely together, and even the role of the SG and how he was able to come in? And of course, unfortunately, he was unable to be with us during the album launch, but he has been extremely instrumental throughout the process.
Yeah, many people might not know that, but the SG, apart from being the executive producer in the project, was actually one of the people, the writers and the renditioners, together with me and our vice chairperson, of the music, the lyrics themselves. And it's because we always looked at a song and said, what do you want to say in this song? And sometimes the SG just came up with something from nowhere. You just start singing, like Modoni Njiro. He told me, have you seen Stop on a Tambo? I told him, no, I'm not sure. then I went to the channel and he told me this song can actually work for our women heroes. So he started singing. You know, I would sing, then he would say, yeah. He's not sure what it is, but he's actually composing. So, so the SG has been one of the main people who has worked very hard to compose, for lack of a better word, some of the lyrics in this project, together with me and the vice chairperson. And then there was the International, which the SG believed that it was possible to be done. And I was skeptical because it's a very, very old song. It's very, very difficult, and it's an anthem. And so I thought that we should do that in the next album, but the SG believed that we are able to do the International. And so the first thing was to make sure that it becomes musical. The lyrics can be able to be done musically, because people around the world have done a new version of the International, which is less radical. And so he wanted us to go back to the original International, which is radical. And so he was able to research for the lyrics, and then he sent them to me, and I was like, this cannot be done in music form. So we tried, we went around, we looked for people who can be able to make it musical. Finally, we remembered our chairperson, Manawiro Mganga. He's an artist, he's a poet. He knows Kiswahili. He's one of the best Swahili speakers we know. So we sent it to him, but also he's also a very busy person. So the SG kept on calling Ndugu from Taveta, Ndugu, tutengenezea hii wimbo, Ndugu, tunangoja wimbo, Ndugu. And so finally, our chairman was able to come up with a good arrangement of the lyrics of International in Kiswahili. That was how it was able to be sung. And even when he was not here, the SG, he was in South Africa. When we were doing the albums in the studio, he would call and ask, how is that one sounding? Can I hear how you're singing it? Then he would say, no, let's try and sing it this other way. Then we would consult and talk about it. Then we would come up with a final product. So the SG has been very instrumental, from composer to researcher to executive producer to even singing.
This my rifle.
This my rifle, this my gun. And then when we did the Tutasonga kwa mapinduzi, tukomboe Kenya na wananchi wote, CPK tupe uwezo, tukomboe Kenya na wananchi wote. Now that's why the SG came in. Because now we had to, he insisted that we have to mention all 47 counties in that one song. And I was really like, SG, are you serious about this? So yeah, we have to mention all the counties, because we cannot go to Garissa and fail to mention Garissa. We're talking about Kenya na wananchi wote, this country and all its citizens. So we cannot go to Taita Taveta and fail to mention Taita Taveta. Yes. So he came himself. We went to redo the song because we had done it in a few counties here and there. He came himself. We went to the studio with him and comrade, the musician comrade
Leonard? Fred?
Mwanamuziki wetu
UP.
Comrade nani?
Mwanamuziki ambaye ameimba
wimbo wetu Revolution, sema Revolution.
Dan?
Dr. Dan.
Oh yeah, Daktari.
And we almost spent the night in the studio. Because you had to get all the counties and you had to get them right.
You need to apologize to Dan.
Dr. Dan, Daktari bana. Okay. Hey, my mind is really... So anyway, Dr. Dan came to our rescue because we could not really get the tune. Tan 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 tan. Kwasia Sanzo. Tan 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 tan. Kwasia Sanzo. Dr. Dan came and the SG, and we almost spent the night at the studio, and we were able to do all the 47 counties in that particular song. So, so the song is quite long. But it's really beautiful. Yes. And you can use a bit of it if you want to use just a bit of it. If you are maybe in Muranga and you are doing some propaganda work there, or you're in a campaign rally, or you're in a meeting, you can use the Muranga part and the surrounding counties and all that. So that was a great motivation from the SG to be able to finish the songs the way he felt they should come out. Yeah, because there's a way he also felt that they have to really come out. Yeah, and so it was my work to make sure that the artists really work out and try to capture the song the way it should come out strongly.
Wow, and thank you for even just letting us into how rigorous the process has been. And of course, we hope that when the SG comes back, we'll also be able to have an interview with him on, on such issues. Moving on, we have seen that as much as this project has been done, there was the COVID-19 pandemic that, came and overtook the world and, of course, our country, Kenya, as well. And with the COVID-19 pandemic, then, for artists and for especially hospitality and entertainment workers, things became so difficult. A lot of people lost their jobs, but especially in this industry for hospitality and entertainment, it became extremely difficult. The bars were to close down, the restaurants, the hotels, and a lot of people lost their jobs. And I'm sure you yourself as an artist, you can relate to the plight of the artist. What can you say about the plight of the artist and how it has been during the COVID-19 pandemic period?
For the artists, it has been really difficult for us, and I've written about it in some of my blogs. And first of all, when the COVID-19 came and the lockdowns came, guaranteed art in general went down the drain, because many artists depend on activities and on events. And when there was a ban on events and on meetings and on gatherings, not many people were able to go out there and perform. And then many people thought that they would go and do virtual work. That is using social media, YouTube. And that is the most tedious part for an artist to do, because it's a sea out there. When you post your work out there, you have to look for money to get influencers to like your work, for you to be able to make money out of virtual work. So again, it was very, very, very challenging for artists. Many artists almost went into mental depression because of the lack of work, and because corporates don't see art as work.
Yes.
Capitalists don't see artists as workers. They think they are entertainers. When there was relief for workers here and there, when there was some cushioning for social protection here and there, nobody remembered the artists. And so many artists who lost their jobs and their way of earning, some of them went completely underground. And for people who work in the entertainment industry and hoteliers, it was even more difficult. People who play in bands, people who play bands in hotels, people who play keyboards in hotels, DJs who work in nightclubs, in discos,
waitresses,
bouncers, who man nightclubs, clubs and discos, waitresses and their families all suffered a lot during the COVID lockdown, and especially around April, May, when there was a lockdown, complete lockdown of the country. And it was done in a scientific way, and we had, as CPK, we had very quickly to respond to that, and we organized for a protest. And that's even where some of our music came in, because we use this music in the streets. And I think some of them are also in our channels. We were able to quickly respond and go to the streets and protest against the unscientific lockdown that was imposed upon Kenyans. And again, later we did a documentary that was released around May, which is around the time we have Labor Day, to talk about how the hoteliers, entertainment workers have been severely affected, together with their families, by the lockdown. And so even for us as artists, for me as a puppeteer, we have not recovered from that. Because for us, we also depend on performances. We go out to the communities and we perform. Sometimes our work is commissioned. And when COVID came in, anybody who was commissioning works of art stopped commissioning works of art, because they thought, now we can't have meetings, so let's not give money to these artists to go and do the work they do. And so our incomes just dwindled, and some of us have not even been able to recover from that.
Yes.
But artists are artists, and they always survive. Yeah. Somehow we are still alive and we are still here. And we hope that it will be a learning lesson for us as a party and for the coming regimes to be able to prepare for a pandemic, in case there could be a pandemic or an emergency for that matter, that we're able to remember that we have people in society who are not in formal employment, but they're in formal employment, people who work in the industries, the entertainment industry, and artists who are not seen to be like workers. It's always good for governments to remember that we have this kind of people in society, and they need to be cushioned whenever there's an emergency or a pandemic like this.
Thank you. We've also seen, as a member of the Central Committee of the Communist Party of Kenya, you were able to represent the party at the Alternative Leadership Congress that is convened by the former Chief Justice, who is Willy Mutunga. Tell us a bit about the Alternative Leadership Congress. What is it about, and what does it entail?
The National Alternative Leadership Convention is work in progress.
Yes.
But it's because in this country we have been put into a box, like our chairman would put it, for us to believe that there's only one narrative or two narratives.
Yes.
It's either this or that, and there's no alternative for this country. That the capitalists will always be the ones that are creating the narrative for this country. That is either you support Raila Odinga, or now you either support Raila Odinga or William Ruto. If you don't support any of the others, you're not in this narrative.
Yes.
But what we are seeking to do is that to show Kenyans that there's actually hope. This country is not completely lost. There are a group of people who are willing to come up and take up the leadership without being part of those two narratives that are lies.
Yes.
Yeah. And people with a clear ideology on what they want, people with a clear path of where they want to take the country, and people with a clear conscience. People who have not been thieves before. People who have not been oppressors before. People who have not looted from this country.
Yes.
But people who have a genuine concern for where this country is headed, and are willing to come up and take over the leadership of this country. It is not about the next general election. It's about the future of this country. We have a minimum program. We also have a long-term program. And so if you look at it from the lens of the next election, we're going to lose it. So we are preparing this country for the future. The National Leadership Convention is not just about campaigning for who's going to be the next presidential candidate. It's about which group of people are willing to take this country forward, beginning now. CPK is part of that agenda because CPK is a revolutionary party, and this is a revolutionary agenda that we're talking about. We have many other players on board. We have the United Green Movement, we have the Kweli Party of Kenya, and many other players that are coming in to try and breathe more life into this convention. The conveners, yes, the conveners are trying to do a good job, but most of them are CSO. They come from CSO backgrounds, and so we hope that they don't keep us so much in the CSO type of work, and we want to go out there and do revolutionary activities instead of being confined into boardrooms and breakfast meetings and discussions and emails back and forth. We want, and we have spoken about this in those meetings with Comrade Gasheke, who is
Secretary of Mass Mobilization.
Yeah, yes,
we had him here.
Yes, and he's also part of the Central Committee, the Technical Committee for NLC, together with me and many others. We've told them that we want to move forward. We don't want to waste money in hotels, yet we can use the small resources we have to go out there and sell hope to Kenyans, because that's what Kenyans are lacking. These young people who are going out there in Githurai, in Meru, in wherever, following people with big Land Cruisers and fuel guzzlers, don't have hope. They think that they have been boxed into this box whereby the only hope they have is these two alternatives, which are not taking this country anywhere. So we want to go out there and just be bold enough and say we are here, we are the alternative face of this country, and we want to take this country forward and sell this much needed hope to the people of this country. And when the masses see us, and they see young people among us, they see the older generation among us, they see women among us, they will see that at least there is something else we can be hopeful to. And we're running out of time on that. And but we have spoken to the conveners about that. Work is going on. Political parties are having meetings. Party leaders are having meetings about that. And we hope that very soon we'll see a launch of the alternative leadership. We've already come up with a tentative name for the coalition, which I don't know whether I'm allowed to say it here. But maybe at a later date I'll mention. You
can mention it here because it's not really
public information. But we've already come up with an alternative for the coalition, because in the short term we want to have a coalition. In the long term we want to have a movement.
Yes.
That brings all Kenyans on board.
Liberates the country.
10 to 20 years to come.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's all about it.
And you've spoken about, alternative leadership, thinking outside the box, which is a story, on the 14th page of the Itikadi, of course, which is a publication of the Communist Party of Kenya. And it goes for 500 shillings, ladies and gentlemen, and 1,000 shillings for the solidarity price. And of course, the pay bill number is 508-400. Get yourself a copy of Itikadi that speaks about the political ideology and the issues in our society from a Marxist, Leninist point of view. And Tony, as we speak about this as well, you're a member of a theatre group known as 5Cs that has been here for, 20 years plus, especially in the civil society organizations and political movements. Maybe tell us a bit about that and the political education that you've been able to do through that.
Yeah, 5Cs. The name 5Cs itself is a political statement. 500 years,
oh,
5
wow.
centuries.
Okay.
5 centuries of oppression and exploitation and colonialism. Ever since the colonialists stepped into this continent of Africa in 500 years.
Yes.
Since they came in, and we have seen those 500 years have been very painful. But we have seen that we've had emerging revolutionaries within those 500 years. We've had struggles, lots of struggles against oppression and exploitation, and we've had wins, gains, we have losses. We've had a lot of things have happened within those 500 years. And in Kenya specifically, our history of struggle from the 1930s, from the time of Mkalilo Menza up to now, have not been documented. So 5Cs came up to try and bridge this gap of knowledge about our history, and especially because there was a need to have a new constitution in the late 90s. And so 5Cs was able to come up and take on this identity of 5 centuries and try and revisit the history of 500 years and the history of colonialism through a play. And actually the play was the one that was called 5 Centuries. So the group adopted that name from that play. And ever since that play that revisited our history and the need for us to continue struggling and the need for a new constitution, 5Cs has been involved in every other struggle against oppression and exploitation in this country, and has been very instrumental in creating the much needed political education to the masses to the Kenyan masses, the Kenyan workers, and the exploited of this country. And so I was part, like I said, when I discovered myself, it was around that time, it was around the early 90s when I discovered myself. That was the first, my first major project to be in as an activist, and that was my first brush with activism in terms of theatre activism. And ever since that time, we have continued to work under the 5Cs, and up to today, we are still working to educate the masses through theatre.
Thank you very much. And I think maybe that's also a project we can have in the Communist Party of Kenya, where, you know, we have a theatre group that educates through, you know, plays and stuff like that.
That is the vision, and we have spoken about that for a long time with the SG, of having a play. We once tried to give it a shot during the Pan-African Congress, but at that time there was so much government in play during the Pan-African Congress in Nairobi, so it was not able to materialize, but we already had written a play and we wanted to stage it at that time. But we've had, that is actually what we would like to do. We would like to use many other art forms, apart from music, to be able to use street theatre, for example, to educate the masses.
Spoken word. Spoken word.
We would like to use contemporary theatre. We like to use participatory theatre. We like to use puppetry and visual art and painting and graffiti to be able to talk about these issues. What we mostly sometimes don't have is resources, and it's a big challenge. But we will try as much as possible to see among ourselves, like in the next phases of the growth of the party, to see whether we can be able to stage plays. Maybe have pieces on the streets, draw graffitis in the communities, and really work with the communities and whatever they're able to come up with, their own resources, to be able to come up with art pieces that can be able to speak to truth to power.
Thank you very much. And of course, we can go on and on and on, because, you know, art is a very, it's a very broad spectrum. And being an artist, and you're an artist, we could go on and on. Yeah. But my final question comes from an art that you spoke earlier being involved in, which is puppeteering. And we have seen one of the shows that we have in our television sets, which are it's a satirical show on governance. And of course, you know, the governance that we have at this time and the track record, there's a lot of complaint, there's a lot of non-delivery to the Kenyans. And of course, there's a lot of, you know, hopelessness. But we see that you've taken a very huge role in this, you know, satirical governance program, which is known as XYZ. And, you know, you're the voice of the president. So maybe tell us a bit about this, and maybe you can tell our viewers at home where they can find you on social media, of course, to be able to follow that as well on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, etc. as we close.
Thank you very much. At the XYZ show, mostly I'm a puppeteer. I work the puppets. And when the producer of the show, the executive producer of the show, Gado, wanted to start the show, he asked, how can I find puppeteers? He was told, just look for a guy called Kasmol. That time he didn't know me, but he sent for me. And I went with my colleagues, and we were able to put together the show. So I would say that I'm a pioneer founder of the XYZ show. And I was there as the head of department for puppetry. And funny enough, the Uhuru voice part came spontaneously. It was just, I didn't plan for it. There was a voice artist who was doing Uhuru voices. Yes. But then all of a sudden it disappeared. And for me, I like mimicking voices. Yes. Ever since I was small, I like mimicking voices. So I was like, okay, here I am, and the show is lacking a voice for the president, because that was the time that we had a new president, and he was facing charges at the ICC. And then the voice artist disappeared and left the show with no alternative. So I just told the voice producer, do you think I can come and try? He told me, honestly, you must come and try this voice. So I went to the recording studio as a puppeteer, and then he gave me a line to read. And I remember the line was, kwani nimongeke ndio wanajificha. So it was, kwani nimongeke ndio wanajificha. So I was like, that is actually very close to Uhuru's voice. So I was able to get the voice and to do it as a side job for me. Then I continued following up the presidents. When he became president, when he was angry, I was able to try and mimic. When he was happy, when he was moving away from his Kikuyu chauvinism, and when he was being a Kikuyu chauvinist, until I almost like perfected the voice. Yeah. That's how I became the voice artist. But in terms of the show itself, the show plays a very important role, because satire is very, very important in terms of bringing conversations, the national conversations, to the sitting rooms and to the communities in general. And so Kenyans are able to speak about the contradiction that we see in governments and in the system. They're able to talk about them in a satirical way and in a comical way. So the play plays a very important role in being able to speak truth to power. And it has been very, very instrumental in making that Kenyans try to understand the conversation that is going up there nationally and to look at it from their own point of view, from the satire point of view. And I would say that XYZ has done a good job of that, and it has won many awards. But mostly my work in puppetry, I work with the communities. I work with the KIPT, the Kenya Institute of Puppet Theatre, which I'm there as a TC director. We have our Twitter is Kenyan_puppet. My Twitter handle is at Tonny Mboyo. Twitter handle for XYZ is at XYZ Show. These are the where you can find our work, mostly our work in puppetry. And I'm more proud of working within the communities that I work with in Madare, in Kibera, in Kiamaiko, in Babadogo, and using puppetry to be able to talk about community issues that are impacted by the system itself. Yeah. So I'm more proud of being a community-oriented puppeteer.
Thank you very much. I was going to let this be the final question, then I just remembered that apart from all this, you're a political aspirant for 2022, and maybe just, we could end with you telling us about your political aspirations, how it has been since, you declared, you'd be vying for a political seat, which is Member of County Assembly of Riruta, of course, using the Communist Party of Kenya.
At the end of the day, you realize that you cannot create much change by being out there. But at the end of the day, you need to get into the system and try and change it from within. At the end of the day, you cannot just keep criticizing and fighting the politicians out there. And yet, everything that you do in society is political in nature. And so you have to get into the politics of it all. And when I came to the Communist Party of Kenya, I realized that everything that we do, everything that we see, the garbage out there has a political connotation to it. The bad road out there is due to bad politics. And so being in the Communist Party for some time, I now understand, I have a better view of society in terms of the political angles. And so when I look at my community where I live in, I see a lot of contradictions, and I know that if we are to get into, ultimately we want to get into power, even as CPK.
Yes. And
we have to start in a small way. My political aspiration is to become a member for County Assembly for Riruta, and ultimately to go to Parliament and talk to these people who are in Parliament and tell them the truth about the contradiction and what we really need to change in this country. And what really needs to be changed in this country, and since I made my poster out there,
yes,
it has been really, really interesting because I never expected such much reaction. So everywhere I go, people are like, "Hey, Tony, you're vying for this seat. I didn't know you were vying. We will support you." There have been massive support from the people. Sometimes you never know whether they're lying or they're just they want handouts. But also for the party, it has done a good thing for the party because the party has gained a lot of traction, a lot of awareness. Many people are not aware of the Communist Party of Kenya in Riruta. Now everybody is asking me about the Communist Party of Kenya, and that's why I'm able to wear the ham and the sickle proudly when I walk around Riruta. And many people have put their posters out there, and they have not put in their parties because they are afraid. They're not sure what they want to do. But for us, as Communist Party of Kenya, we are sure of what we want. We are sure of where we want to go, and our ideology is very clear. We are not waiting for Ruto to declare UDA or for Raila to come up with another Azimio or Sijua Gonjwa, something like that. We are very clear that we are in the Communist Party of Kenya.
Yes.
And so it has also done good for the party. Part of my reasons for vying is also to create awareness of the Communist Party of Kenya to make people know that there's an alternative party that is a continuation of the struggle for liberation in this country. And if I will clinch the seat, which I think I will, because we will work very hard within the party and the communities. I will go in there and sharpen those contradictions in Parliament, in county assemblies, and in government itself. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Tonny Mboyo, for gracing the CPK TV today, and for the myriad of insight that you've given us, and we were very much glad to host you, and hopefully next time you'll be able to pay us a visit as well. And thank you to our viewers for tuning in once again to our CPK TV. Remember to follow us on our social media. That is Communist Party of Kenya on Facebook, at Communists KE on Twitter, and Communist Party of Kenya on YouTube. Thank you very much. You can like, share, subscribe, and we'll be here to respond. I've been your host, Sefusani, and from me, it's been adios, bella ciao.
Thank you.